Hey everyone, Mark Hessman here, host of On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. Tune in every Saturday morning live on KHMO, broadcasting right here at our radio station in Quincy, Illinois. You can tune in every Saturday morning, 9:05 sharp. Follow me on all social media at Mark Hessman. That's Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube as you're checking out here. Like and subscribe at Mark Hesspen, MarkHespen. And follow the show on the Facebook page. Just search On the Mark KHMO on Facebook. So for today's kind of mini YouTube update episode, as we're kind of halfway through the week and heading towards the show on Saturday, was doing power rankings all season long. I really wanted to talk Chiefs and 49ers, but the problem is we're going to talk so much about them on Saturday. We're going to talk so much about them next week. We're going to talk so much about them next Saturday. I'm like, you know what? I actually want to take a second and I want to look back at the two teams that lost this weekend, the Ravens and the Lions. And I feel so strongly about my emotions towards what you should and shouldn't be feeling towards the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. You should absolutely be criticizing the Baltimore Ravens, and you should absolutely be praising the Detroit Lions. So let's jump into it. Start with the Baltimore Ravens, the early game, as they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. The Baltimore Ravens had a golden opportunity in front of them. The Baltimore Ravens were the deserved number one team in the NFL in this playoffs. Best record, they destroyed the Niners, they destroyed the Dolphins. They went on incredible wins they destroyed the Lions, big wins all season long. They were the number one rushing team in the NFL, 156 yards per game. They led the league in sacks with 60 sacks per game in the season. And they completely went opposite of their strengths in this game versus the Chiefs. It was embarrassing. It was wild. It was crazy. I was watching it and I kept saying to myself, where is the Ravens? Where are they? What are they doing? The game plan was so awful. Lamar Jackson having to throw the ball 37 times while your running backs are only getting 6 carries for 23 yards. This is the number one rush team in football. And of the 4 defenses left in the NFL, the Chiefs, especially missing some key players along that defense, including losing a player during the game with a torn ACL, were the most susceptible to being able to run the ball. And we knew the story about their linebackers being injured. They already have some injuries on the defensive line. This was an opportunity for the Ravens to go in and assert dominance. And I truly feel like after that 7-7 tie, the Chiefs come out, score quickly, Ravens come out, score quickly. It felt like the Ravens played right into the Chiefs' game plan. Like, all right, now this is going to just turn into the Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes show. And the problem is, no quarterback in the NFL right now is going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the one-on-one show because he's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's the guy. He's phenomenal. He's doing stuff that we've just never seen before. And even though Lamar Jackson is the deserved MVP, he had a better year. He's a terrific player. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He is not going to beat Mahomes one-on-one in a just AFC title game all-out show. Maybe in the regular season, seems like the Chiefs are turning into like the San Antonio Spurs or like the LeBron James Heat teams where they're just like, yeah, just get me in the playoffs. Just get me in the playoffs and then let's go. That's what it feels like the Chiefs were this year. We were critical of their offense all year long. I never kicked them out of my Super Bowl plane. If you follow the podcast I do on YouTube, you can check that out, the Football Lunch podcast with my co-host Dan. But, in the power rankings, I always had the Chiefs really, really high in the power rankings. And so it just was maddening to watch the Baltimore Ravens fall into this trap and not go out of it. I get it. If the Ravens were down like the Niners were down, we're like, oh my gosh, we're down big at halftime. We've got to change some stuff up. Lamar, you just got to have to make some plays. You got to carry us. We're going to have to throw the ball a bunch. That wasn't the game at all. This game was tight. It was always tight throughout the whole game. I mean, the Chiefs only scored 17 points in the win. They only had 2 sacks. And for the team that led the league in sacks this year, that's disappointing, especially going up against a backup center. The Chiefs were missing their best offensive lineman. You only ran the ball with your running back 6 times. That is unacceptable. It's embarrassing. And what's killer is you had the Chiefs at home. you had gotten through unscathed. You only had to play the Houston Texans and then the Chiefs at home to get to the Super Bowl. You're the number one team in football. Everything was right there in front of you, and your offensive game plan was horrendous. Now, credit to the defense. They played okay. You held the Chiefs to 17 points at home. Offensively, it was embarrassing. It was a mess. Do I blame Lamar Jackson? Yeah, I do a little bit. I blame the coaching staff, and I blame the game plan more. But also, Lamar is at the point of his career. He's already been to an AFC title game. He's played in the playoffs. He's been a one seed. He hasn't been in an AFC title game, but he's been a one seed. He's been in enough playoff games. He's been in the league for 6 years. He has got to know better. He's got to make plays. He's got to realize, why aren't we running the football? Or why am I forcing throws, horrible pick to Isaiah Likely, instead of just taking what the defense gives me? When you watch Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson that game, it's the same thing as Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes does it to these people. Patrick Mahomes is constantly taking what the defense gives him, taking those 10 yards, 5 yards, run, scramble for 15 yards, 10 yards, bomb, occur to Kelsey, 30-yard pickup, because that's what the defense is giving them. Where Lamar and Josh, they fall into these traps of like, I got to be amazing, and I got to go do this, I got to do that, I got to do, as opposed to letting the game slow down and just taking what the defense gives you. Keep your team alive. Keep your team alive. The Baltimore Ravens deserve a ton of criticism. This was a golden opportunity, and I just don't know if they're going to have this again. The AFC is going to be even tougher next year. A healthy Burrow. Allen's obviously coming back. You now add Harbaugh to the Chargers and Justin Herbert. This AFC, obviously the Chiefs aren't going anywhere. This AFC is extremely tough, and the Ravens had a golden opportunity. They deserve a ton of criticism for this loss. You now lost your defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, headed to Seattle. Good for him, getting himself a head coaching job, youngest head coach in the league. Seattle gets their guy. It's not going to be easy. This was a veteran Baltimore team that's been in the playoffs, been in these spots, and they pooped the bed. I mean, they totally pooped the bed. I'm going to flip it now. Praise the Detroit Lions. I'm going to praise the Detroit Lions for a young football team who in 3 years went from a 3-win team to just missing the playoffs last year to an NFC title game where they were winning and leading the NFC title game on the road against the best team in the NFC over the last 5 years. The best head coach in the NFC, you could argue. Definitely one of the top 3-4 head coaches in the NFL. And a juggernaut, the best roster, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL. They were leading at home because the Detroit Lions have built themselves an identity, a philosophy, and a young football team that is completely bought into it. So yeah, did they not know how to handle the success, the lead? Did CJ Gardner-Johnson wave into the fans? Was that a dumb move? They made a lot of young mistakes because they haven't been there before. Not only have they literally act like you've been there before, as a franchise, they just haven't been even close to anything like this in forever. People being critical of Dan Campbell. I just don't get it. I get maybe being critical of the play call towards the end of the game with the run as opposed to throwing it at the goal line because then you had to burn the timeout. But at that point in time, you're already a 10-point game. I felt like the game was a little out of hand anyways. You were going to need another miracle score. Yes, the timeout could have gotten you at least maybe the ball back. It was a rough spot to be in for sure. I'm not going to be overtly critical. What I'm going to be critical on is the people who are being critical of Dan Campbell. People say, oh, he makes emotional decisions and he's not thinking through things. I completely disagree. Dan Campbell has said all year, this is the team we're going to be. We're going for it. My team converts more of these. It's like their version of the tush push going for it on fourth and 3 or less. They convert more of them and at a higher rate than their kicker makes field goals. First of all, the Lions need to get a better field goal kicker so they can completely trust in their kicker when they need to. But the going for the field goal at the end of the first half, totally agree with, because if you don't and you take the points and you go for it and you don't get it, well, you don't gain the benefit of pinning them back there because the half's over and it's end. So take the points. That was a great decision. Going for it early in the third quarter when we had the drop ball. First off, he's got to catch that ball. If he catches that ball, completely different storyline. We're talking about a Lions win and everyone's in love with Dan Campbell. So you got to make that. It was the right call, right play. Got to execute it. But again, I liked going for it there because, again, not only is it part of their philosophy, but also it allows the Lions plenty of time left in that game to still like, okay, you don't go for it. We can get momentum back. We're still in this game. We're still up. And if you do get it there, you just completely gain momentum back on your side. You step on the throats of the Niners, and it makes this game almost insurmountable at that point in time. The final one, yes, I probably would have taken the points there. That's where I wish Dan Campbell in the offseason will go back and look and say, hey, in certain amounts in these situations, these points of time in the game with this amount of time left, you're down by this many scores, go and just get those points there, especially in a playoff game where points are at a premium. If the Lions would have gone into overtime and found a way to do that, I think they would have had a great chance to win that game still. Listen, let's be honest. The Lions played a great game. They just are a young team that couldn't finish off the game. Once the momentum started spiraling away from them, there was just not much they could do. The fumble was a killer from their star young running back, a rookie making a mistake. And the Niners took an inch. You give, the old children's book, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. The Niners took that cookie, that glass of milk, they took that inch, and they completely ran with it. They stole momentum back. And so I would not be critical of Detroit at all. They have a young team. They're not in cap hell yet. They still have another year before they have to pay some of these guys big money. So next year is going to be another bonus year for them in that regard. They played to their strengths. They didn't lose their identity. Unlike Baltimore, who I just told you, they turtled and completely botched it. The Lions, was it a drop pass, a fumble? Some mistakes were made, but they played true to their identity, their winning football, and what they were all year long. They got to improve on defense, so their offense doesn't have to score 33 a game to win these games, because their offense is really capable of doing it, but it'd be nice to only have to score 24 or 27, and their defense not give up more than 21 to 23 points in a game. But they're a young team. They built a culture. The Detroit Lions, obviously getting Ben Johnson back is huge now. Really, really pumped about where they're headed. Praise the Lions and the way they attacked that game. Criticize the Baltimore Ravens and the way they went into and played in the AFC Championship game. It's not perfect, right? There's obviously some things that the Lions, you want to clean up, but overall, be critical of the Ravens. That's fine. Praise the Lions. Don't be critical of the Lions. Overall, what they did now that we're a couple days removed was the right way to play that game, attack that game. They just didn't execute 100%. Drop ball, fumble, that's what killed them. Tune in Saturday morning on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. We're going to start to preview the Super Bowl. It's going to be a ton of things, including already working on some stuff, including the pressure. The pressure is on. Who are the top 5 people who are going to be under the most pressure in NFC in the Super Bowl from the Niners and the Chiefs? Also, the best players in the game. We'll do some fun stuff like that and start to do an early breakdown. Follow me on all social media at Mark Hespin. Like and subscribe here on the YouTube channel, and we'll talk to you next week.